quiet courtroom sat a young man old in years. A cheerful smile played on his face. His eyes were filled with tears. As in that crowd he sat alone.
When I first heard about Unsplash and read its license that you can download any of these high-resolution images for free and use it for any purpose, commercial, non-commercial, you don't even have to give credit to the photographer, although it's appreciated. This is insane. Like, is this the race to the bottom that we're all just tumbling towards? And I thought, well, you know, it'll probably have a few good images on the front page, but if you dive into it, there won't be very much. But I dove into Unsplash, and there's a lot of really great photography, a lot of really good stuff on there, all being given away for free.
It's my favorite four-letter word.
Just here you go. You can have it, and you can use it for any purpose. So I started looking into Unsplash more. I reached out to one of the co-founders, Mikhail Cho. You can see that video on my blog at deadpixel.com or here on my YouTube channel. And I had a really great discussion with him about that. As a commercial photographer, that's the background that I come from. One, the whole aspect of free kind of, this just feels like one section of our ecosystem just shrinking in and shrinking in and shrinking in. So as I'm looking through Unsplash, I see all these pictures of people. There's tons of pictures of people.
But the important thing is that you can find a lot of people. And I know it's a funny thing to say, but the thing is that a lot of people aren't aware of is that when you are a commercial photographer, which a lot of these are taken by commercial professional photographers, or even if they're amateur hobbyists, when you submit photos of people for potential commercial use, you actually have to get the permission. So, like, it's hard to find free, really high quality images of people. Unsplash actually does not have that problem.
There can be no way that all of these photos are model released. I fired off some texts and some emails to some friends of mine in the creative field, and I was like, look at this site. They're giving all these photos away for free. Some of them are really good, and there's tons and tons of people shots, and there doesn't seem to be anything about model releases on here. In fact, you don't see anything about model releases until you dive into Unsplash's terms and conditions, and down as you scroll, there's something about, oh, if there's an identifiable person, you might want to check on a model release. But hey, that's not our job. You do it. Well, the problem is Unsplash is giving the license. It says Unsplash grants you the irrevocable blah, 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 license to use this commercially or non-commercially, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So here's what my friends and I did. We decided we were going to come up with this campaign. And we thought about, you know, what kind of campaign that can we come up with, this fake campaign. And at first we thought we'll take one group of people who have a very set way of thinking about life, let's say, that do not agree with the lifestyle of another group of people. And what if we found these people's photographs on Unsplash and used them to promote this group of people? But the problem with that was I didn't want to really throw any groups under the bus. I didn't want to make this a joke. I didn't want to have a laugh at someone else's expense. So we started thinking about who can we do this? What group can we work with that we really don't give a shit how they feel about it? White nationalists. So one friend of mine made a logo. Another friend of mine started working on some like taglines and slogans, and I bought a domain, and we were going to create this entire campaign of a political action committee, a white nationalist political action committee. That was our plan. Now we need photographs. So we started going through the Unsplash library, finding pictures of identifiable people, and we searched around the world. We were acting as an agency or a designer or whatever, and doing our due diligence to find the model release for the picture. Now, our thing was we weren't going to tell anyone what this campaign was, and we would see how many model releases would actually come back. We never actually built the campaign for 2 reasons. Number one, we just didn't have time. Second, and more importantly, was the replies that we got back from photographers were more golden than the fake campaign that we were going to create. Like, I could not believe the replies that we started getting back. A lot of photographers who have uploaded photos to Unsplash to license for any use replied back and said, oh, that photo doesn't need a model release because it's covered under the Unsplash license, or it's covered under Creative Commons 0. So that means it's already released. You can use the photo. Well, no, that is not what the Unsplash license does, and that is not what Creative Commons 0 does. You have a license, you have a copyright of the photograph, right? But if there's an identifiable person in that photograph, in most countries throughout the world, and we'll talk about this in a second, in most countries, if that is going to be used for any commercial purpose, then you need a release from that person. The Unsplash license doesn't cover a release at all, whatsoever. It will never, ever hold up in a court of law. Ever. So, in addition to needing to educate these photographers about how Unsplash does not do that, we would reply back and say, well, I'm sorry, the Unsplash license does not cover a release. We need a model release. And people would reply things like, well, I don't know where to get a model release. Well, you can go to Google and you can get a model release. So what we did is we would send them a blank model release. Here you go, here's a model release. If you could fill this out, have it signed, send it back, that would be great. Even as something straightforward as providing a release to the photographer and asking for it to be filled out and returned was hard to do as well. This is one of my favorites. It was a picture of 2 kids. I contacted the photographer, and the photographer said, oh yeah, those are my sons, those are my kids, you can use the picture. And I was like, well, I can't use your email as a model release, especially since they're minors. I need an actual signed release. So here is a model release for a minor child. If you could fill one out for each child. There were 2 kids in the picture, so each child needed a model release. The photographer then sent back the model release, and instead of putting the name and the date of birth of the subject, they just put brother's pick. Brother's pick. That is a this is useless. This is not a good model release. Some photographers would get the model release and then forward it to the subject that was in the photograph that we were asking for the model release for. And then the subject would email us back with this half-ass filled out model release. And in one case, it came back from the subject, and the subject was 16 years old, and they signed and filled out their own model release. And that's a minor filling out a model release, which again will never stand up in a court of law. Even more photographers would reply back with things like, well, that's a picture of my husband, you can use the picture. Or they would say, oh, that's my girlfriend, she won't mind, you can use the picture, she said it's fine. One photographer said, well, that's my nephew, and I asked my brother-in-law if he'd sign the release, and he doesn't really want to sign it. He's okay with having it on Unsplash, but he just doesn't want to sign the release. Well, how is he okay with it getting licensed for any use whatsoever, but does not want to sign a model release for his son? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. That's an issue. And if that's a picture of your girlfriend and she doesn't mind, my friend, you are one pissed off ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend away from a lawsuit. Let me make this as clear as possible. If a photograph is used in a commercial sense and it is not model released, you as the photographer are liable. You can be taken to court and sued. It's that simple. So while someone might just casually tell you, oh yeah man, that's fine, you can totally use my picture and I don't care, they don't care until, one, they might have an axe to grind with you later, or two, their picture is used in some way that they do not want that picture used. Today I received a message from a gentleman named Mike Riley in the UK, and he told me about GDPR. And this is something that affects the UK and is about to affect the entire European Union. And it is the General Data Protection Regulation. The GDPR are laws that are being enacted and how personal information is regulated. And that's names and addresses and personal information like that, financial statements, blah, 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 along with biometric data of people. And one part of biometric data is photographs. So I did a little research into how GDPR is going to affect photography. Now, you already have countries in the EU like Germany and France that have very stringent privacy laws that affect how you can use photographs of people. GDPR is taking it to a new level, and there will be some cases that come up that there's not a precedent yet, but it'll have to be taken care of in the courts of law there. I'm going to put a link to a PDF that I found about how GDPR affects street photography in particular. And you can go read that and get educated on that and what that means for street photography. If you go and search Unsplash for things like France, Germany, Spain, Madrid, Paris, Brussels, anything that falls within the EU or the UK, you will start to find photographs that were taken out on the street in public areas of identifiable people. And if those images end up in any kind of commercial use, you are going to find yourself in a big liable mess. Now, being as I am not an attorney, I decided to reach out to an attorney, and I got in touch with Carolyn Wright. Carolyn Wright's website is Photo Attorney. She's an attorney here in the United States, and she very graciously gave me some of her time. We had a great phone conversation, and I asked her, I was like, could you provide sort of a written statement about the conversation that we just had, coming from an attorney's perspective? What does this Unsplash license mean to photographs that are not model released? Carolyn's statement starts with, proceed with caution with dealing with Unsplash. Photographers who contribute photos there may find themselves in a lawsuit for a variety of reasons. While an end user clearly has the responsibility to secure permission for commercial use of a photo, the entire text of her reply is down below in the description and also on the blog post. I'll go to the end here. An attorney representing an aggrieved party, that's someone whose picture has been used without a model release or their permission, likely will sue the publisher, Unsplash, and the photographer to increase odds of recovering damages for these claims. Therefore, the free element of Unsplash may ultimately cost you more than using a traditional license model.
Isn't that beautiful? I mean, you can't pay people you can pay iStock if you want.
If you'll go to a site like Stocksy, Stocksy is a great stock photography site. There's a lot of really great work in there. If you will start clicking around on images of people that you can identify in the photograph, you will see in the description where it'll say 1 model release or 4 model releases. There are pictures on Stocksy where all you see is someone's hand, and that has a model release for the hand.
It's hard to find free, really high quality images of people. Unsplash actually does not have that problem.
Stocksy makes damn sure that everything is tightened up and legal and covered. Unsplash doesn't do shit to make sure that everything is covered. So from model releases to property releases to trademark releases, just go to Unsplash and search for terms like Nike or Starbucks or Disney. Look, hell hath no fury like Disney pictures being used without permission. Disney has shut down daycares for simply painting Mickey Mouse on the side of their building. And you're going to give a commercial license to a brand that you have no release from? Look, it takes one naive photographer, one naive platform, and one naive designer working in the basement of some corporation to put together some sort of ad, some sort of poster, some sort of social media campaign. And it doesn't get checked. No one is doing due diligence. And it goes off into the world. And then all of the sudden, lawyers get involved. Once lawyers get involved, you have no idea how much free is going to cost you. You know, I don't want to get all into the whole free. You can't eat off free, and well, you get exposure, and it's devaluing the cost of an image, and well, everyone's a photographer these days, and we can go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and everyone already has on the internet. I've read all the comments. Samuel Zeller, who is kind of the Chance the Rapper, the one person who has said, you know, like, man, I've made money in relationships off of Unsplash. If you do any kind of search on Unsplash, you'll find Samuel's posts about giving away his photographs for free for 4 years and how it's come back to pay him. He's the outlier. I have been trying to find 100 Samuel Zellers. I want to find 100 photographers who are like, Unsplash has been amazing for my business. I have been able to gain so much from this exposure. And let's talk about this exposure, likes and views and downloads. So I was invited to get on the Unsplash Slack group. I don't know why, and I've really kept my mouth shut there. I don't want to go in and kick up dust. I don't. That's a community of people. They're all about that. I just kind of lurked and looked around. And this gentleman by the name of Marcus Fatter, I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Marcus, and shout out to you. I told you I'd give you a shout out. He just signed up with Unsplash on January 18th of this year, 2018. And he was like, I'll share with you some of the numbers that I've been getting since being on this. And so far, some of his work has showed up on the trending and the new feed in Unsplash. And he's had more than 1 million views. He got a little email from Unsplash. Let me go over to it real quick. Hey, Marcus, amazing. You just cracked 1 million views on your photos. You're more seen than Hamilton, the Broadway show. Thank you for being part of what we believe in. We hope that you'll continue to share your work with us. Do you know how much bullshit is in that little email? Marcus, look, man, much respect to you, okay? And I'm not digging on you. But you, or at least your photos, have not been seen more than Hamilton. Hamilton is a sought-after production that people pay thousands of dollars to go see. Oh my God, I saw Hamilton. It was amazing. It was one of the best nights of my life. Blah, 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 whatever. Whatever they say about Hamilton, okay? There are not 1 million people walking around this earth going, oh, I saw that photograph on Unsplash. I have to tell you about it. There was some water, and as you're scrolling through Unsplash and thousands of thumbnails are going past your eyeballs, it was seen, it was viewed, but it was not taken in. It was not, let me stop. Let me catch my breath on this photo. Like, say, maybe going to see Hamilton. Someone looking at a picture on Unsplash and someone going to see Hamilton. Those two never fucking equal to each other. And then lastly, where to go? Thank you for being a part of what we believe in. We hope that you'll continue to share your work with us. And this is the big issue I take with the Unsplash ethos, is that it's all kind of combined in these warm, fuzzy feelings of contributing and giving back and inspiring others. And you're part of this community, and there's relationships building, and it just makes you want to just cuddle up with your loved one by the fire, right? Like, I get it. You go, oh my God, my pictures have been viewed 1 million times. It's been downloaded over 2,000 times. Like, man, I've never gotten so many views on my pictures ever before. No one is really paying attention. Watch this one designer at work. This came up on my Facebook feed sometime in the last week, and it is a designer talking about how to make graphics for your blog. Watch how she works with Unsplash.
Hi, I'm Charlie. I'm a designer, and I'd love to give you some advice for creating graphics for your blog. And let me show you my favorite resource for Creative Commons free photos. It's called Unsplash, and it's filled with lots of high quality free imagery. So I just like to search for a photo on here that relates to the feel that I'm going for, and I quite like the look of this night sky one here, so let's use that. Now I'm going to upload it to Canva, and then we'll drag it on to our canvas here. So there we go, that's our base.
You see, it's like, oh, yeah, look, there's a nice picture. I'll grab that, download. Didn't even have to log in. Didn't have to agree to the terms and conditions of using the photo to download the photo. There was no check box that she had to click on to say she understands that, you know, everything's released and just blah, blah, blah. None of that. There's no user agreement that anyone signs off on. Just download, boom, use it, boom. Did they go to that photographer's profile and then take them on to their Instagram account or their own website, and where they just sort of took in all of their beautiful photographs? Like, oh, no. Like, oh, here's a nice picture. Click, boom, bye. Hey, it's free.
I love free. It's my favorite 4-letter word.
So in the Slack group, there's a photographer named Joanna. And Joanna has really some lovely photography. I've found her Unsplash profile, looked at her work. There's really nice stuff. And she writes in the general area of the Slack here, woot woot, my photo on the cover of gift guide attached to Brides magazine in the UK. And she attaches a photo, and there was a special insert, it looks like, for Brides magazine, which is a Condé Nast publication, and it's the Modern Guide to Gift Lists. And Joanna's picture is on the cover, and she just so happened to randomly find it. Like, they didn't get in touch with her. They didn't say, hey, you know, we used your photo. Thank you very much. We would love to send you a copy of this. None of that. Someone said, did you know they were using it, or you just stumble upon it? And Joanna replies, I had no idea. Total lucky strike. I was looking through magazines on my coffee break when I saw it. I posted it all over my social media. And there's a lot of kudos. Oh, that's so great. Oh, that's so awesome. And one person by the name of Jackie replies, I sit here honored to see these famous photographers be recognized. I love your work, Joanna. I sit here honored to see these famous photographers be recognized. Okay, here's one thing you can do. You can get on the Googles and you can pull up Brides Magazine UK, all right, and you can download their media kit. And the media kit is basically their sales guide for advertisers. Hey, you should advertise with us because we have this much in circulation. We reach this many viewers every month, this many readers. Our social media has this reach. 69% of brides read this more than another thing. Here's all the data of why you should advertise with us. And then if you keep on scrolling down the rate card, there are the rates for, let's say, an inside front cover, all right, double truck, is like 32,000 pounds. I don't have the numbers directly in front of me. I'll scroll them right here now. That's roughly $45,000 to take out a double truck ad on the inside front cover of Brides Magazine. There's the price of it. Now imagine getting the cover of a special insert. How much that would fucking cost, all right? Tens of thousands of dollars. And for this special insert, designers, copywriters, printing, all of it, just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And they got the cover photo for free.
Why pay for it when you can get that high quality on your own?
That is not charity. That is not giving back. That is being taken advantage of. This isn't a little tiny mom and pop barber shop that needs a picture for their website or their Facebook page. This isn't a food blogger that, needs a picture for a blog post they're doing about cookware. This is a Condé Nast publication that has a huge circulation in the UK. And that placement of that photo cost tens of thousands of dollars. And Joanna, you didn't get a dime. They didn't even tell you. They didn't even send you a free copy. They just used your shit and moved on with their life. That isn't giving back. That's being taken advantage of. Simple. I get that you get excited when Apple is giving a presentation on stage and up pops their iPad Pro demo.
These images started popping up at marquee conferences, in album cover art for multi-platinum singles, on Apple's iPad Pro demo.
And you spot one of your photos that you've uploaded to Unsplash in that demo. Oh my God, there it is in an Apple demonstration. That's so cool. Apple is a $900 billion company. That is not so cool that you don't even get a dime. And no mention that there are a lot of people in this ecosystem, in this industry of photography, who are trying to do this legitimately, who try to have everything done right, to have all the model releases, to have all the stuff buttoned up. And we're fighting every day to just keep a value to what we do. It's tough. It's tough, and I get it. Adapt or die. I swear to God, if one more person says, you need to read Who Moved My Cheese, I'm going to throw up all my cheese. I'm just trying to get some cheddar. And somebody keeps moving it. Looking at my notes. So I found TJ's quote. I'd mentioned it in that conversation with Mikkel, and I couldn't find it, but here it is. TJ, a friend of mine, is a musician. TJ said, I just think it's interesting to see how different industries continue to be shaken up by aspiring tech startups who have no skin in the game, using other people's money to gamble with an entire industry of people's livelihood. And that was kind of the issue. I know Mikkel, one of the founders, comes from the creative industry, is a designer, is a writer. And Mikkel built something, Unsplash, that went on to help raise millions of dollars in revenue for his other company, Crew. But Mikkel's not a photographer. He's never been a photographer. He doesn't know what it's like to be a photographer, how to make a living as a photographer. He was able to raise investment money to the tune of about $8.5 million, so other people's money, and continued to put resources into Unsplash. It's gambling with an industry, and an industry that he doesn't come from. And that's not his money that he's putting on the line. It kind of sucks. Let's say you're going out of town for 2 weeks and your car is going to be sitting in your driveway. And you say, you know what, my car's going to be just sitting here. I bet somebody could use my car, right? Like, you just have these images sitting on your hard drive. I bet somebody could use them, and that would make you feel good that somebody could use your pictures that you enjoyed taking, and they're just sitting on a hard drive collecting dust. So yeah, my car's just going to be sitting in my driveway, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the keys in the ignition, and I'm going to get on all of my feeds and say, hey, for the next 2 weeks, my car is going to be sitting in my driveway, not using it. If you need a car for any reason, any purpose whatsoever, totally, you can use my car. Keys are in it. It's ready to go. Have fun. It'll make me feel good knowing that you're going to take grandma to the doctor's appointment. That's great. You wouldn't do that. You value your car. You've spent money on your car. You maintain your car. You keep your car running, and then to just let it out into the world for anyone to use for any purpose at all. Can you imagine what might happen? What happens when someone who doesn't have a license, who doesn't have insurance, uses your car, gets drunk, drives across the center line, kills somebody? Who's going to show up at your house asking questions, right? Because now you're in a liability issue. That's going to be a bitch. All right, I've gone on too long. I know it. Who cares? It's just photography, right? It's just photos. If you are a photographer uploading photographs to Unsplash, then you need to have everything correct. Think of a few ways that you could use these images. A, it could be promoting something that you personally stand against, right? You could go onto Unsplash, download a bunch of photos, and start a Society 6 or Big Cartel store and start selling iPhone cases and throw pillows and wall art with someone else's pictures because the license grants you that. Think about this. You could be a wedding or a family portrait photographer who's just getting started, and your portfolio kind of has some holes in it, and you need some extra pictures for blog posts or a gallery, or you're building an album for a bridal show that you're doing. You could get on Unsplash, type in wedding, love, family, couples, and go download high-resolution images from weddings and engagement shoots and family photographs. And as long as you don't try to claim copyright, like you don't put copyright by your name on it, you can put those on your website. You could build a wedding album and fill it in with Unsplash pictures. You could print them up for your bridal show booth. You could make mailers out of them. You could make blog posts out of them. Is it ethical? Oh, hell no, it's not ethical. Is it legal in the context of the Unsplash license? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you could go create a whole wedding photography website completely off of Unsplash and having never taken a picture yourself, as long as you don't try to claim the copyright, right? Like if you don't put any words of, all images copyright your name instead of the photographer's name. You don't have to credit the original photographer. You don't ever have to let them know what you're doing with them. You could do that. That's completely in the license to do. Stuff to think about. Look, the cat is out of the bag. It's what we just have to deal with now. Unsplash, it costs them, I think, north of $20,000 a month just to maintain the site and the servers and all the technology and the stuff that goes into it. Mikkel has said himself, like, that they're not sure how they're going to monetize this. Like, at some point, Unsplash has to be monetized. You can't keep spending $20,000 a month on something that just will never make you a dime. So the future of Unsplash is not yet written. It may die, and then something else will pop up in its place. This is where we are. And maybe I'm just an old man standing on the bow of a sinking ship saying, you shouldn't have run into that iceberg. Who moved my cheese? I don't know. But if you are uploading, if you are putting pictures up on Unsplash and you do not have a signed release from a brand, from a person, in certain cases properties, your ass is just hanging out in the air waiting to get screwed. That's just the truth of it. I know it feels great that you're giving your photography, but you are also opening yourself to massive liabilities. And at the end of the day, all those millions and millions of views don't really necessarily mean someone just stopped and looked at your pictures and took it in and went off and sat in a corner to contemplate all of existence for a moment. There's really great work there. And that work has value. There's a lot of valuable work on Unsplash. And you may think, well, I'm not a professional photographer, but you know, you're doing a great job. You're taking some great pictures, and there's value. And you know what? You can be in charge of that. You can find an organization that you believe in and say, hey, I have this library of images. I would love to gift these images to your organization. I believe in what you are doing. And if you could ever use any images like this, I would like for you to use them. You know, the problem I have with Unsplash is that it's taking from photographers, and photographers aren't getting anything back other than just empty calories of view numbers. Empty calories. Yeah. I wish that there was... I wish it was more of a community of lots of creatives giving back to each other, that it was some sort of symbiotic kind of relationship, that designers were adding things to the pile, and that template designers and Squarespace hackers and, hey, here's some stuff and here's some things and here's some templates you can use, and you know what, I'm a music producer and I got some beats that you can use for your videos, and there was this community, a real community of creatives all working together, helping each other out with several different pieces of pie coming in that everyone could benefit from. And that, yes, maybe at some point it's getting taken advantage of from, you know, getting picked off for commercial uses, but the whole of the pie, all of it, the entire community was all able to rise together. Rising tide raises all ships. And right now, the tide is rising and your ship has a hole in the boat, photographer. You're not getting shit out of this. So that's my thing. I don't want to be mad about it. I don't want to be angry and like, and it does. It's upsetting. It's kind of like, oh well, Fuck it. Adapt or die. Right? Polaroid, right? Kodak. Adapt or die, you sons of bitches. I will work for exposure. I've worked for free, and I will continue to work for free on certain things. But I am in control of that. I control what value I feel that contribution I'm giving to someone is going to return to me. It may return to me in warm fuzzies that I'm able to help someone out who otherwise couldn't do what they need to do. It may be a relationship that will, I hope, in turn later down the road, pay for itself or come back to me. Might be karma points or whatever you want to call it. But I'm in control of that. And when you put your stuff on Unsplash, you've lost all control. You have no idea what's happening with it and who's taking advantage of it, who's using it incorrectly, or using it in a way that you wouldn't like. So those be my thoughts. That's kind of what I think about all of that. There's a million other things that can be said. I'm going to shut up now. Thank you so much for watching. If you have comments, if you want to talk about this some more, hit me up in the comment section below or on the blog at deadpixel.com, DEDPXL.com. And be sure to check the links that I mentioned. Go to photoattorney.com, look at Carolyn's response, and all of that. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a great day. Bye. Jesus, take the wheel.
The noisy, quiet courtroom sat a young man old in years. A cheerful smile played on his face. His eyes were filled with tears. As in that crowd he sat alone while he stood up for trial. The judge was all attention. He was sleeping all the while. That poor boy was a rich cashier. His good friends, they were bad. The bank he worked for had no funds, and he stole every cent they had. When down the aisle that walked the wreck.